Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Way Forward Workshop Leader Lunch Break. We are thrilled to welcome Dr. Jodi Berg. When Jodi Berg stepped aside from her role as president and CEO of Vitamix just 6 months ago, it was hardly a retirement in the traditional sense. What it is for Vitamix is an opportunity for outside leadership following 4 generations of leadership from within the family that founded and owns the company. What it is for Dr. Berg is the opportunity to build on her phenomenal success as a leader and brand builder. After moving the Vitamix brand to iconic through distribution in over 130 countries and 400% growth, now she can find the time to elevate her personal brand of a purpose-driven life. She viewed Vitamix as a company that changes lives, and it's her personal mission to continue that in her own journey. She is a change agent, as you can see, with a constant drive for improvement. As she transformed the company's vision, mission, and culture, she was transforming herself, adding a Ph.D. to her pedigree. Her dissertation speaks to her personal mission statement. It's entitled, Purpose Matters: The Impact of Personal Purpose, Company Purpose, and Transformational Orientation at Work. She's a recipient of dozens, scores, if not hundreds of awards. A few of them are the Power 150, Best Places for Top Talent, a multi-year winner, the Smart Culture Award, Champion of Integrity, Innovator of the Year. She's a member of the Northeast Ohio Business Hall of Fame, recognized as a woman of note, EY's National Entrepreneur of the Year, and it goes on and on. She served as a board chair for Team NEO, Greater Cleveland Partnership, and the David Cooper Ryder Center for Appreciative Inquiry. And she still finds time to give back and inspire others all that she can. Dr. Berg, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And also thank you to the Cleveland Leadership Center. I didn't know that these luncheons were happening. I'm kind of apparently a late adopter. I went into the archives and I watched like over the next one and the next one and the next one. They're all just amazing. So if you guys haven't gone into the archives lately, it's just an incredible resource of these presentations. So thank you for this amazing opportunity. And what a delight to be the one to kind of wrap up 2022 and kick us off into hopefully 2023. So what I thought I'd share today is, so my whole career, and I mean my entire career, not just working, but going back to education and being involved in the community, has all been about driving sustainable change through this powerful tool that Marianne talked about, which is purpose. So I thought I would share just a little bit of highlights from my research today, and then give you some insights about how I've applied it on a personal level, on the company level, and also in the community level, in particular economic development. And then really open it up for questions, because we have such a diverse group of people on this call today. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing like what your perspective is and what lens you put this through. So you're helping me as you bring forth some questions and we can explore it together. So I'm going to share my screen. Did I do that right?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, perfect. So there's 3 elements to this purpose and why it's so powerful. Some of this you may already know. The research about companies that have a higher purpose has already been established, and they perform better and they have higher engagement than companies that don't have a higher purpose. I studied that research as well, but it's not really where I want to focus today. The second one, you may or may not know that this transformative leadership style is positively correlated with financial performance and performance ratings. We kind of, our gut knows this, and a lot of us do it intuitively, and several of us maybe have dug into the research, but it is a real thing. The one that I really want to focus on today, though, is this one on the right-hand side, which is having a personal purpose and how that drives personal performance. So what does that look like? And this, so much of this, gosh, when I did the research, I'm like, yeah, that just seems so obvious. But one of the things that was a bit of an aha for me is that although all senior leaders tend to be purpose-driven, there's 2 very different styles or lenses that they look at purpose through. And one of the reasons this was hard for me to wrap my head around is you see on the right hand, the socio-emotional type of personality, when they think about personal purpose, it is in reference completely about something bigger, about changing the world, right? And it is a very long-term look, and it's integrated 100%. Like those of us that are on this side, we can't separate our personal purpose from what we're doing at work, to what we're doing at home, to what we're doing in the community. It's just all mixed up together. I'm not saying that as if this is all right there. If you've ever been married to somebody like this, there are definitely some drawbacks and challenges. The other type of purpose-driven person that I found in leadership is this, we call it more task-driven, but it's somebody who this reference about their purpose is it something I can do? And it's not from a selfish perspective, it's more of, is it something that I know I will be able to succeed at? So when I'm done, I can actually make a difference. They like it to be very goal-driven, so that they can say, yes, I've accomplished it, and they can separate it. They can be very purpose-driven at work. They might have very different purposes at home, and they go into different buckets. This will come out a little bit later. I just wanted to give you a highlight. And as you're seeing this on the screen, I'm hoping that you're seeing yourself in either one or the other. The other big aha that came out of this is if you have a personal purpose as an individual, or if your employees are living with a personal purpose, their engagement at work, look at this, it's more than double what the engagement of work will be by a company having a higher purpose alone. Their commitment level to the work because of their personal purpose isn't quite as high as if they're a commitment to the organization that has a higher purpose. So the key here, clearly have both. But the one that really jumped off the page is this life satisfaction. So we as leaders, we often think, oh, if we give people a company purpose that they can get excited about, this is going to have a positive impact on them. At the end of the day, it actually really doesn't. But if you can tap into what drives them, what really gets them going, the impact that it has on them personally from a life satisfaction is literally, you'd call this pretty close to off the charts, right? It's an impact that if you had to choose, do I want a higher company purpose or personal purpose? Hopefully you don't have to choose, but the one that's going to have the bigger impact on your engagement. And then at the end of the day, as leaders, be transformative in people's lives. It's this helping them understand their personal purpose. That sounds great. I get that. But it's also not necessarily the easiest thing sometimes to figure out how to do. Before we get into that, and that may be actually in the questions, I want to talk about how you apply this on a personal level, company level, and then in your associations and organizations outside of work. So personally, purpose, if you take a moment to reflect on a time when you had something you wanted to achieve just so bad, like you would do anything to make this happen. It could have been a sports competition that you were involved in. Sue, I'm looking at you when I say that. It could be something at work. It could be an achievement that you wanted to accomplish. Whatever that is, if you think for a moment about how you felt, I'm going to put odds on the fact that you felt like you could overcome anything in order to get that done. You could leap over tall buildings in a single bound. You could plow right through the building if you needed to. You could stay up all night. We are so driven when something is personal. This is so logical, right? So if we know that we're driven when it's personal, why wouldn't we have that same effect on all of our employees? Very quick story. When I stepped in, before I stepped in as the president and CEO of Vitamix, I saw this incredible opportunity on the horizon, but we were a relatively small company at the time. And we had this amazing opportunity to transform how people thought about blending, about how people thought about whole foods, and also to create an entire category of high performance blending. But being relatively small and our competition was significantly bigger than we were, we had to find a way to just become at least the perception of a really big company, and then we would grow into our shoes very, very quickly. And as I told the leadership team, I said, we're kind of a biplane at the moment. We need to be a Learjet, and we're already in the air. So the only way I knew how to do that was by making it personal for every single one of our employees and finding their connection to why us being on a Learjet was something that mattered to them. And then I got out of the way because there's no way I was smart enough to be able to make all these decisions. I'm still not smart enough, and I lived through it, right? It's a very complicated thing, but it released all of that focus, energy, drive in all of the employees, and they were making decisions because they wanted us to succeed. They wanted to make sure that we got to the finish line. That at a company, so that at the company level, releasing it in all of the employees. And then my job became keeping us focused on that true north, keeping us focused on that purpose, helping people find that connection between their personal purpose and what we were doing as a company so they could see that what they were doing truly mattered, and then overcoming the obstacles that got in their way. It was a very different style of leadership than I even had done in the past. And it worked brilliantly, but of course, hindsight's 2020, and kind of know that story a little bit. But the third place I want to talk about in just a couple of moments is how that applies to our community, and in particular economic development, because I have a quite a strong passion for our Cleveland area and all of Northeast area. And as you know, I was the chairwoman of Team NEO. And what Team NEO has done for our region is they're an organization that can bring all of the different organizations that have their own purpose and people in the community that have a personal purpose, and bring them together to a regional table and help the alignment of the purpose, the things that really matter to people most, and be that organization that helps bring the understanding of what the ultimate goal is, and then releases the superpowers, if you will, or releases the personal purpose in each of those organizations. And then as one organization is moving forward, to be able to pull in another organization because they're aware of everything that's happening in the region. So if you've been on any sort of call with Team NEO, or if associated with them over the past couple of years, you've probably noticed what feels like a very transformational change in what they're doing in our region, and how they're bringing together the amazing organizations like GCP, which has its own strategies and its own purpose and what it's working on, and enhancing that work with other institutions and companies and just regional partners like our greater Akron Chamber and Stark County and the others, just bringing them all together and pulling out only the things that are really aligned in similar purposes to be able to bring home their strategies that affect all of us, like talent, sites, gauging and promoting the region from a marketing perspective. And of course, I think the fourth one is industry, focusing on industry. So in a nutshell, I don't want to speak any longer because I want to give opportunity for questions, but hopefully I didn't talk too fast, but bring them on. Let's have some wonderful conversation.
Great, Jodi, thank you so much. So let's just start with, as individuals are looking about their own purpose, what are some steps or advice you have for helping people find what is their purpose?
Okay, I can cover this one really quickly. The first thing to help figure out what your purpose is, and even if you think you know what it is, write it down on a piece of paper and put it in front of you and say, does every single thing I do go through this particular lens when I make that decision, right? So you may already have it, but if not, talk to the people that are in your world that truly and honestly care about you, and ask them what you are really, really good at. What you're doing is you're identifying superpowers. So ask them, what are the things that I'm better at than anyone else when I do those things? And then you look at your list and put your egos aside, right? Put everything aside, your humility aside, I meant to say. Bring the ego out a little bit and say, what am I really good at? What am I better at than most people that I see in my world? Then you're going to look through that list. Those are the things you're good at. Look through that list, identify the things that when you do them, you get an unbelievable amount of energy. You are so stoked, you could go 24/7 without stopping when you're doing those 1, 2, possibly 3 things. We're good at a lot of things, but there's only a handful of things that when we do them, You're not going to be able to shut us down. We could walk in with no energy and start doing that, and boom, we got energy again. So that the superpowers are the ones that give you energy. Now you're going to go back and talk to that same group of people that you trust and that love you and care for you, the ones that are going to give you the good, bad, and the ugly. That's the group I'm talking about. And then ask them, if there's a superhero out there with these superpowers, and this is what, tell them what I'm most passionate about. You could be most passionate about something. It could be the environment. It could be something about other people. It could be, I don't know, it could be anything. What could that superhero do to change the world? And just have that conversation. And when people say something and it resonates with you, you're like, yeah, wait a minute, I could do that. So to give you an example, my personal purpose is to help people find their wings and give them a chance to fly. Maybe it sounds like a silly statement to some people, but what it means to me is every opportunity I have, one-on-one conversations with employees, conversations with my daughters, conversations with any conversation I can be in. I love when we start talking about what people are good at and what they love to do. And I love to help them discover something, connect dots to say, wow, I didn't even know I could do that. Nobody's ever told me I could do that. And helping them figure that out, and then helping them find a chance to do something about it. So does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So as an organization, when you're looking to bring in individuals who are purpose-driven, how can you identify those that are leading with purpose or who might be a great fit for your organization?
Oh, that is such a great question. And what we did at Vitamix is when we interview somebody, you simply ask them, what are you passionate about? What do you really care about? When somebody's talking about a purpose or something that they really care about, their eyes are going to light up, right? You don't have to worry about it. They're just going to give you this token answer. They're going to tell you something that you want to hear, like, oh yes, my purpose in life is to really develop high performance blenders. Like, no, like I can see right through you. But if they're really talking about something, tell me more, that thing that really gives you energy. That's what you want to pull out in people, and they're going to start to get excited about it when they talk about it, and they're going to have a different energy level. That's usually something that they have a purpose to. And how do you connect the dots to their personal purpose and what they're doing at work, right? You just have the conversation and say, well, what is it about that particular thing that you do that you're excited about? For example, we have Carmen, she was on our production line, is where she started. Now she's in a leadership position. But when she was working on our production line, I was reading a testimonial of a customer who fed her daughter Vitamix products through her feeding tube. And her daughter just completely transformed from being inactive and her hair was flat and her eyes were dull to a little girl who was running and playing and with her friends, and her eyes were sparkling. And when I read that testimonial, Carmen literally had tears coming down her cheek. And afterwards I asked her and I said, Carmen, what's up, right? And she says, I just realized that my two hands may have put the machine together that transformed that little girl's life. She goes, I will never, ever put together another machine without thinking about her and making sure that it's exactly right, because it could change somebody's life. Imagine doing that for every single person who's working for you.
So we have a fellow proud BGSU grad, Ryan Sowers, here, and he's wondering, as someone who is closer to the beginning of his career, what general advice you have on how to be an impactful servant leader? How did you approach that earlier in your career?
So there's actually a small book out there called Servant Leadership, and it's a really good book. So I read Servant Leadership and tried to follow that before I even understood the whole personal purpose piece. But my advice would be to find your purpose. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time out. You may change it, but write it down, adjust it, and eventually you're going to get to that statement that every single thing you do, it just gives you energy and you love to do that. The second piece of advice is, once you know what it is, maximize the amount of time in your day that you can actually live with your purpose, because your purpose is going to give you energy. Your kryptonite is going to suck the life blood out of you. It's just going to drain you. I can see them smiling. We get both of those in our life, right? There may be some things that we happen to be really good at, but they're our kryptonite. those are the things that as you balance out, if you look at your career, you look at your job, try to find one that gives you the opportunity to do as much of your purpose living as you can and minimize your kryptonite. Doesn't mean you can get rid of all of it. No, you're still going to have some of it, but recognize as you go through your day, if you have a kryptonite day that's kind of heavy in kryptonite, find a way to balance it with personal purpose so that when you go home at the end of the day, you have energy and you're not taking out all of your frustrations on the most important people in your life, which we tend to do, right? Salvage those amazing relationships you have by coming home with energy. The other thing, a little tip that I learned is if you surround yourself with people who your kryptonite happens to be their superpower, golden, give them energy. Meanwhile, you don't have to do the very thing that's going to suck the lifeblood out of you.
And that's great advice. Thank you for that. So Jodi, as you transition from kind of a traditional executive career role to kind of your next phase, I'm sure there's no limit to the number of opportunities and people, organizations that want you to get involved. What criteria are you using as you decide where to dedicate your time, treasure, and talent?
Same criteria I've used every step of the way, and that is how many people can I interact with and help people identify something about themselves so at the end of the day they can be better and more of who they are. Like this whole personal purpose is going to be the lens that I look through. There's a couple of books that I'd like to write. So once I find a little bit of time to do that, look forward to those. One of them will probably be about this, the superpowers and kryptonite, and really breaking it down into an easy tool for leaders to apply within their organizations as they're moving very quickly. I'd also love opportunities to interact with leadership teams and inspire them and help them identify their personal purpose. So if your organizations have those opportunities, then reach out to me. Yeah, and then we'll see where life goes. But it's definitely going to be something that gives me energy, and I'm going to minimize my kryptonite from here on out.
So Jodi, how did you know it was time to make that transition? And what was it like to step away from that leadership role in a company that had been part of your family for so long?
Yeah. So the other magical thing about living with purpose is you probably noticed I didn't say that my purpose in life is to make my family company successful. My purpose in life is not to be a president or a CEO. My purpose is to change lives. So I got an amazing opportunity to do that on this incredible platform that I had when I was with Vitamix. But I also have wonderful and amazing opportunities to do that in different platforms as well. And it's time. You sense that there's a time where I've done what I can do and I've laid the foundation, and we had other very talented leadership coming in, and I knew that we would transition to non-family members soon. Once we hired some non-family members that we felt could really carry our family business forward, I knew that I needed to get out of their way. I needed to give them the opportunity to succeed and not be in my shadow. So because I'm not focused on I'm not defined by my role at Vitamix, it was easy, relatively easy. It's always hard to move away from something that you're just emotionally connected to. But it was time, and I was ready to be able to say, okay, I'm ready to go on and do something else, and I want to give them a chance to spread their wings and fly.
As you look over your time at Vitamix, what was the most important leadership lesson that you learned during your tenure?
Oh, wow. So hands down, the most significant one is we had reconnaissance out there, and we were paying attention as we were growing, going through hyper growth. We were paying attention to every single one of our known competitors out there. What were they doing? Is there any possibility that they're moving in this direction? Because we needed to know what was our runway for putting in for protecting ourselves against whatever they were going to do. We did not even have one of the companies out there was not in blending, but their whole strategy was to go after organizations that have done extraordinarily well and to find a new blue ocean space and become the second one in that space and claim to be just as good, but come down significantly lower in price and push so hard with hundreds of thousands of dollars in marketing and have set up distribution and marketing before people even realize that their product is truly not the same. Caught us, it really caught me right behind the knees, and it was not something that I was prepared for. In hindsight, this company had only done it one other time prior to us. Since then, they've done it multiple times, and this has become their MO or their strategy. But it had only happened once, and in hindsight, I probably should have had enough information that I could have caught that. So they just made my life a little more challenging than I wanted it to be.
Over the past year, there really has been quite a wave of leadership transition. As you look at the next generation of leaders coming into their roles, what do you see from a leadership quality and approach to leadership that stands out to you?
And I think the question might be really in the whole Northeast Ohio region. I mean, we've just had so much turnover in our health system leadership and in our higher education leadership and some of the key organizations and companies. I think it's an incredibly exciting time. It's a wonderful opportunity to bring this new leadership group in, and for them to not have possibly, I don't know if I can say this appropriately, but not have some of the baggage that some of us as leaders in the prior generation kind of had, whether and baggage it doesn't have to bring us down, but sometimes we let it, right? So I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm so excited for the new leadership that's coming in.
What have you been the most proud of during your time with Vitamix?
Oh, I would say, well, there was one award that I received, and it was just an online award, and it was I think it was the most likable CEO. That just tickled me to my toes. I love that. And then the other ones that just I'm most proud of is every moment when one of the employees would just come up to me and they would tell me their story of how they were looking at life differently. I had an employee say, she said, she came up to me and she goes, well, I'm leaving and it's all your fault. And I said, wait, what? She says, no, she goes, I realized through our conversations that what I really, really want to do is I want to be a yoga instructor, and I want to really live in the Northwest. Don't want to be in Cleveland, and I don't want to be working in a manufacturing. So she packed up her bags, moved to Seattle. She is so happy and loving life and living that purpose and not waiting. And so every moment when somebody says that, they gave me a beautiful memory book when I left. And one of the traditions that I have is I would write letters to anybody and everybody, but I write a lot of letters to employees, probably about 450, 500 letters a year. Anytime they had a milestone anniversary, or they started going to school, or they graduated, or they had a milestone in their life. And it was just a very meaningful time for me. I grab a cup of tea and then I just sit down and I reflect on whoever I'm writing the note to. So when I left, they reached out to all the employees and asked if anyone wanted to write a note to me. And I had a book of over 230 notes from employees. And the majority of them were people that work on our front lines, the ones that are there every single day, working in production, working in housekeeping, working in our warehouse area. Some of the most amazing people that you've ever met. And their notes were just filled with memories of moments that we've shared together, or things that we've been through, or ways that I had touched their life. And I still get teary-eyed every time I look at it and read through it. So yeah, I think that's what I'm most proud of, is the lives that are changed because of an opportunity that I had to be involved.
Well, Jodi, we talked that this was going to go fast, and I think that is a wonderful place to wrap up our conversation today. We are thankful for your time today and for your leadership, and encourage everyone here to think about their purpose as we head into the new year and find those opportunities that align. Jodi, thank you so much for being here with us today.
It is my pleasure. Thank you, everyone. God bless and have a wonderful holiday, whatever that looks like with you.